In today's video, I'm going to be going over how you should be looking at a Form 1040 and really what you should be looking for when reviewing the Form 1040 with your preparer, or if you're doing the return yourself, what you should be looking for. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and give you a little bit of explanation as to what return we are looking at. So in today's video, I'm reviewing a 2023 tax return. In regards to whether or not there's any difference between 23, 24, or 25, there's very minimal difference. Maybe one or two lines might be missing, but none of those are substantial when reading a 1040 for most people. So in this case, I'm reviewing an older return, but it's completely fine. And the information that I'm using that is used in this return is completely fake. None of it's real. It's a sample return actually from my tax software that I use. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So we are reviewing a return for the Crescendo family. I've hid the fake social security numbers just in case, you never know in today's world. But so this is the return for the Crescendo family. This is just obviously when you first read a 1040, this is all just about the information for the return for the family or for the person you're preparing it for. So in this case, it's Creed, and as we can see, it's a joint return because he's married. So it's his spouse's name is Dee. So the address is listed right there. All normal stuff. Filing status is married, filing joint, which makes sense. Obviously, the only other choice he would have in this matter would be married, filing separate. That's not anything we have to worry about. And then we come to the digital assets question. Now, for most normal, ordinary people, this is going to be a simple no. But this is starting to kind of change as things go on. But I think this is more in regards to like crypto and other questions like that. But it's always something that you should be doing your due diligence for and just making sure that you don't have any of that throughout the year. But as we can see, it's receiving a award or payment for property or services, or selling, exchanging, or otherwise disposing of a digital asset. This next question here is related to standard deduction. So basically this would be if someone can claim you or your spouse as a dependent. In this case, I don't know how old they are, but I'm imagining they're probably in their 40s or 50s because as we can see, they have kids, maybe younger, maybe 30s or 20s, but obviously no one can actually claim them as a dependent, so we don't have to worry about that. The only thing that's worth mentioning in this section right here is he was, as we can see, the main taxpayer, Creed, is actually blind. So that'll actually give him an extra standard deduction amount of $1,500. So that's also just worth mentioning as well. So as we go down here, we can see that the dependents information is right here. I also hid their social security numbers just to be safe. And the child tax credit checkbox is selected. So that's going to apply on the second half of the tax return. And we'll also review that information on why that matters. So as we kind of go down a little bit further, we're going to come into the very first section of the tax return, which is the income section. So always keep this in mind when you're looking at a tax return. On the very first page, you're always going to see the income section, and all the income for the year that you'll have will be right in this section right here. So without further ado, let's just get right into this income. So we can see as a family, assuming between the wife and him, they earned $115,000 in W-2 wages. The rest of these lines right here are also related to W-2s, but not for most people. They won't apply for most people. So then we can see this next 1Z is just a total of all these lines from this section, this one right here. That's just totaled up. So it's $115,000 is how much they earn from the W-2 wages. And then we get into interest, dividends, retirement distributions, pensions and annuities, Social Security benefits, and things like that. In this case, he had taxable interest of $15. If you have interests are over $1,500, then an actual Schedule B will be attached to the return. In this case, we don't have to worry about that, so no issues there. If you had dividends, that'd be listed here. Retirement distributions also would be listed here, and same thing goes for the pensions and annuities and Social Security benefits. So as we kind of scroll down here, we can also see line 7, Line 7 would be if you had any sort of investments or stocks that you sold throughout the year, whether that was for a gain or for a loss. And then any sort of additional income that you might have had. So if you had a small business on a Schedule C, that income would come from Schedule 1, and that would be listed on line 8. So just again, that's kind of where all those different forms of income come from. But in this case, we're just reviewing his return. I'm not going to make up any more fake scenarios or anything like that. He has a total of $115,015 in income for the year. And next line we're going to be reviewing is any sort of adjustments to the income that he might have had. So in this case, there's no adjustments to the income. If you did have an adjustment to income, then you would have that listed right there. The next line is just going to be showing that how to calculate your AGI, your adjusted gross income. In this case, it's the same as his total income because there's no adjustments to the income there. And then we come into the standard deduction or itemized deductions if he was just to itemize. And as we can see right here, the standard deduction for 23 is the $27,700. And then plus, because he's blind, he gets an extra $1,500. So it comes to $29,200 for his standard deduction, which brings his taxable income. So this is the actual amount he's going to be taxed on. This $85,815 is what he's going to be taxed on right there. And that is something that I feel like a lot of people don't realize when I'm reviewing the return, is a lot of people think they're being taxed on this $115,000. They're not. They're being taxed on a much smaller amount, almost $30,000 in this case, and it's actually going up. In 2025, it'll be well over $30,000. So another thing just to keep that in mind as we kind of go up. But so now we're going to move on to taxes and credits, which is the next section when you're reviewing your 1040 for the Crescendo family. This first line here is based on your income tax. So this is the income tax that was calculated based on that $85,000 of income that the family had. So right now they have a tax amount owed of $9,859. And as we kind of go down, we can actually see line 19. So line 19 is the child tax credit, which, as we saw before, that was actually checked off for both of his dependents. So that's a $2,000 credit per child in tax year 2023. In 2025 is going to be $2,200 based on the recent changes in July. So as we can see, that's a significant help, because what a credit does for him is a credit reduces this $9,859 by $4,000. So if you look right here, subtract line 21 from line 18. If 0 or less, enter 0. $5,859 after subtracting the $4,000 from $9,859. This is his total tax owed for the 2023 tax year, $5,859. So that's a huge difference between what it could have been with the $9,859 versus what it is now. So that kind of explains how to look at the tax section. This is the actual amount of tax that you're paying in, or that you might have already paid in, which we'll determine in the next section, which is the total amount of payments you made throughout the year. So this first line here is all about federal income tax withheld. So you're going to see your W-2s, your 1099s, if there's any other forms that you might have had. In this case, for most people, you're just going to have federal income tax withheld from your W-2. And as we can see right here, there's that $12,000 was withheld from his W-2 wages. He did not have any estimated payments, didn't qualify for the earned income credit, nothing like that. So we don't have to worry about any sort of other payments that they might have made throughout the year. The only payment they made was $12,000. So when we come down here, we can see his total payments was $12,000. And based on that information, we can determine whether or not he's going to be getting a refund or a payment. And since the total payments is way more than how much he actually paid and how much tax he actually owes, he is going to be getting a refund of $6,141. So that is why it is, in my opinion, it's so crucial just to understand the basics to reviewing a tax return. I mean, this is a very basic tax return, don't get me wrong. There's only W-2 wages and interest income. That's all there is to this tax return. But it's just worth noting that this information, you should always be conscious or well aware of what's going on with your return. Whether you're preparing it yourself, you probably have a lot more understanding of it than someone who might go to an accountant and just have the accountant file the tax return every year without ever reviewing it. I always recommend looking at the tax return information with the accountant because they're preparing it based on whatever you've given them. So, and obviously you want to have trust in them, but you also want to, they want to be doing it right the same way, you want to ensure that they're doing it right. So I always recommend just looking through this information with them. Obviously, in this case, it really pays off because they're getting a pretty big refund for the tax year 2023. This information down here, we can see what their occupations are: music store clerk and a librarian. And then obviously they would have to sign right here. In this case, I'm the preparer. Excuse me. I didn't select for this return to be discussed with me. I told them that they can deal with this one by themselves if there's any issues with the IRS. And then obviously the preparer's signature down here. So other than that, that kind of sums up a Form 1040. It's relatively a basic form in the sense that it's a summary of what happened throughout the year in regards to your income and how much you actually have paid into the year and how much your tax liability is going to be. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you learned something new or if you found this video helpful, please subscribe or drop a like, comment. Any support really helps the channel grow, and it also makes me feel a lot better about how I'm doing everything. So I greatly appreciate any support that you guys can provide. And other than that, I will see you guys in the next video that I'll be making. So peace out, everyone, and have a great day.